Well, hi everybody. As I've had so much feedback on this, and it really helps me to know if I'm helping you or if I'm doing things the right way. So I will continue the tutorial on the hair, and this time, and thank you so much for all your feedback and for all of your nice words. I really appreciate it. It feels good to hear them and to know that I'm helping you and that these videos are good for at least some of you. Thank you so much. So we will continue, I think, with this one right here, the darkest one, with all these hairs, these loose hairs from the braid. So I think we will start by this really dark area here, and then proceed to the light, and here it's also very dark, and to the light again. This one should be easier than the other one, and we'll see what we'll do next. I will try to be a little bit faster so that I can do at least another one. So let's continue with this one. Okay. I will be using my set number 4 on the temperature of my Optima. Let's see what happens. I will zoom in just a little bit so that you can see better. Not this. Zoom in. Okay. Let me just readjust this for you. Alright, I think you will be able to see better like this. And like I've said, let's start by these really dark areas here, which are here. Just turn this a little bit so it's easier for me. Test your tip, of course. Let's see. I'm using the spear shader. It is the one that works the best for me, but you can use whatever you like. The writing tip, the ballpoint tip, whatever one you like the most. As I've said before, I think I will decrease just a little bit so I can control this better. For 3.5. As I've said before, don't try to darken it all at once. Keep adding layers. This way you will have more texture. And we have Christmas coming up. How are your preparations, your gifts? Have you thought of anything? Have you done anything you made yourself? Like gifts made with your pyrography work? Most of my gifts I usually make them myself. I'm not really into this by craziness of the season, so I really like to make the gifts myself most of the time. Is it a bookmark? Is it a box? And I buy some, of course, but I try to add something mine also, so that it is not like an empty present, just a commercial present. So keep building your tone, your color. Keep expanding the lines. As I've said in the other video, don't make them very parallel to each other, because hair is not, as I've said many times before also, you cannot do every single hair, and the hair is also a little bit wild, so it's not all the same direction, the same length, so it's kind of a freehand style. Just pay attention to the values and the direction of the hair, of course. Don't make it too wild, okay? What I'm doing is building some texture here. I know this is a very dark part, but you can always go over it and darken it more. I think I'll increase it a little bit, not 4 but almost 4, so that I can go a little bit faster. Just so that I can try and make another side of the braid, and don't make the video too long. I know that most of you don't mind at all of the length of the video, but well, I try to keep the balance so that it is good for everyone. I think I lost the direction a little bit here. This was not meant to come this way. As I've also said in other videos, you don't have to always be changing temperature. If you keep the pen, if you use slower strokes, it will darken more. So you don't have to always be changing temperature. Place it in like a middle temperature that you can work with, meaning that if you leave the tip a little bit more, it will go dark enough, and if you use faster strokes, they will be light enough. Just change the temperature when the difference is past that limit. Okay, so so you won't lose so much time always changing temperature. And actually that's what made me also use the shading tip for almost everything. I know we have all the other pens that help us, but I managed to use the shading tip. I think it's a very versatile tip, and now I use mostly the spear shader because of the sharper tip, sharper end of the tip. I can do finer lines with it, I can shade, it's very versatile, and it also saves me some time. That doesn't mean that the other tips are useless or that you just have to have this one and you'll be able to do everything. This is just me. It doesn't mean it works for everybody or you have to do exactly the same as I do. So test your other tips, see what works best for you and use it. Use what works best for you. This is just the way I work and the way it works for me. So the important thing is that you reach a result that is satisfying, that you are happy with, and that's the goal. It's like I'm telling you how to start, one way of doing this, and you can do this with the tips you like the most, the way you like the most. So don't be completely blocked in the tips I use. So actually this line is already this one. Both this line and this one are the limits to another part of the braid. So we have our limits on these dark areas here. Actually, recently in this new project I'm working on, I was looking at these graphite lines here, and I used a paper that stated that it was graphite, and it was actually carbon. I suspected that because carbon, even being black, the color is much thicker than graphite. Graffiti is almost this gray color. Carbon is always a very thick color. Is it blue, red? Is very intense, and you can see it right away because of that. And I noticed that, but used it anyway, and it was really carbon, yes. I did not press too hard, but I think I pressed a little bit more than I should. and that makes it a little bit harder to take out of the wood, so pay attention to that. I don't mind working with carbon paper, but that can be a real bad issue. If you press too hard, it will be really hard to take out of the wood. That usually doesn't happen as much with graphite paper. It's a little bit easier to clean and to erase. So if you're starting, or if you haven't used carbon, please pay attention to that. Don't press too hard if you use carbon, but I would advise you to use graphite paper instead, or use a pencil and like an 8B, 9B pencil, or at least 4B. 4B pencil will work great. Use it in the back of the drawing. It's exactly the same as graphite paper, but it's cheaper, and I think in the end it's the best way to trace your designs. You can choose to use it on all the back of the drawing, or just the areas you want to trace. You can use a light table for that, or you can use a window. It will work all the same. Light tables are usually a little bit expensive, although I don't know if it is good or not. It is probably not that good, but I found one on AliExpress. I don't know if you know this website is online. They sell everything. It's everything made in China, and I saw there these light tables. They were like 12 euros. They worked with LED. They had 3 intensity levels. They looked good, and I wanted to order one because mine, it's one of the older ones, and the light went out one of these days, and then it went back on, and I was a little bit scared that it was going to die soon, but excuse me, it's still working, so I did not order that. Well, at least it's inexpensive. I don't know if it's worth it or not. I found that option. I was willing to try, but I don't need it yet. But the window will work perfectly. You won't need a light table anyways. So, okay, here we have a little bit of the dark area. Still have a little more to add to it. Oh, and lately I've had a few compliments regarding the videos and regarding the work I do, and I usually don't have that much feedback, and I was really very happy that, and people usually also don't like to say, well, I started doing this because of you, or your videos really helped me. I don't know, it just doesn't happen. But I don't know why lately several persons came to me and told me, well, I really like your work, your videos, and they helped me to start doing pyrography. Thank you so much. And I just can't explain how happy it made me, because as you all know, I have taped all this journey, and this was never meant to be. I never wanted this channel to be like the best pyrography channel, or that's not my goal. That's not what it was meant to be, or what it is, or I just wanted to talk about this new technique I discovered, and I wanted to do lots of projects, and I named my videos like project number 1, number 2, until some time ago, and that's what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a video, not diary, but, well, a video journey. And suddenly I started having more and more people, starting to know more people, starting to learn more things with them, and it started to grow. It feels good to have some feedback from so many people. Good feedback. I've had also bad feedback, but sometimes it's easy to criticize something just for criticizing. I think everyone accepts critics as long as they are constructive, meaning if I tell you, well, this is not good, and don't tell you why you can get better, or why you did this, why it doesn't look good, or do you know how to get better, do you understand what I mean? And I've also had some of those, and those are just sad. But fortunately I've had many much more good ones, and it feels so good. I feel very accomplished with. I was never meant to do tutorials or something like this. It was always meant to be speed up videos of projects I was working on. And then you started asking me to make a tutorial about this, about that, and I started making them. And it's good to feel that they help someone, and it really makes me feel good. Now I'm using just the edge of the tip, here between these two lines. It's this dark part here, so that we don't lose ourselves in the middle of these. Remember, faster strokes, lighter tones, slower strokes, darker tones. And also remember that this is not a photograph, it's a representation, so it doesn't have necessarily to look exactly like the reference. If you don't achieve that level, it's not a big deal. It's just not a picture. So don't mind that. Do the best you can. Well, I think I missed a line here, because this is this. So we have this line that goes to the corner of this side of the braid, and it should be here. Well, these are more like some loose hairs. I think it will work best the writing tip, and I will move to that next. Okay, so we have this line, and then we have all this dark area that blends with this other side of the braid, which is here. I'm using the whole tip now to get a bigger area and shade it. Well, we can go ahead and make a little bit of this one since we are here. Let's add some lines here, some fast strokes. Slower stroke, the whole tip. Still using almost 4 on the Optima. Blend it with the other one already. I think I would really like to help more people, but actually I don't know. I've heard about so many platforms, but you would have to pay, and all of them, like Patreon and things like that. Twitch is also very used now, mostly for gaming, but I think it can be used as a platform for other things, for whatever you like. If you have any idea of any other way than YouTube and can give me some idea of what I could do, I would really appreciate it. Not that I don't have already enough things to do, but I would really like to help in some other way, I don't know. This is something that came to my mind right now. I mean, I've been thinking about it, but I didn't find any platform that I think it's good enough. The YouTube videos are free. I actually never wanted to place ads on my videos. I did that I don't know, 3-4 years after I started the channel, just because I never wanted to do that. But well, I have to eat, and it's not much, but it is some help, and I hate to ask people money for information. It's just me. I'm like this, can't help it. So if you can talk to me about any platform that would be good for all of us, that would be really great. Okay, so I'm expanding the darker areas. Slower strokes, darker strokes. I've been thinking that I would really like to translate the videos in more languages. I'm trying to figure out some way to do that faster, because I don't really write Spanish or Italian, and I would really like to have a translation in those languages, for example. Mostly Spanish and Italian also. Okay. I am not sure because I translated to Portuguese because of the Portuguese and Brazilian subscribers, and I am working some way of adding a translation to Spanish and Italian faster. So I think that once I have translated to Portuguese, I can do that almost automatically for other languages. I will see that very soon, so I hope my videos will be translated in more languages. I would really like to have sign language, but I don't know anyone that knows sign language, unfortunately. So I think I will not be able to pull that off, but that was really important for me. I would really like to have that in my videos. To make them accessible, for example the tutorials, well, you have the translation anyway, but it will be good. Always look at your reference photo, as you all know. Now I'm using like the size and also a little bit of the bottom of the tip. Sometimes it looks like it's doing nothing, it's not burning, but it adds a little bit of a tone, and when you burn, even if it's very light, the wood will behave differently the next time you go over the same spot. Using more of the sharper edge of the tip now. Well, hair is really very time consuming. Mostly if you wanna get all the details in, and we can stay here forever doing this. I am trying to do it as fast as I can, but I've been saying this lately, I think I'm getting slower and slower. I really like to see if I got all the details, and I always try to capture as much as I can. And that takes time. I keep looking at the reference photo, keep looking at the work, and it is time consuming, but it's worth it, at least in my opinion. I think I'm getting better results, at least more satisfying for me. I know that at the beginning you always want to see how it will look and want to see it finished as fast as possible, but if you try to not do that, or at least start with smaller projects that you can actually see the result faster, you will notice that it is rewarding. Using just the sharper edge of the tip and slower strokes. Now, just to change a little bit, I will be changing tips. Let's see how it works. I usually use the shader for almost everything. I will use the writing tip. As you can see, I've sharpened it a little bit more, so it's not 100% sharp, but it's sharper than it was originally. And let's start with 3.5 on the Optima to see what it does. And we can increase it as we go. Because these hairs are more this loose type of hair. I will increase it to 4. Actually, this tip takes a little bit to heat up because of the tip, the very tip of the tip. I will increase it to 4.5. Wait for a few seconds for it to heat up. Just because I wanted to go over the lines just once or twice. Well, the thing I don't like with this tip is that you easily get these dots. It doesn't matter how faster you go, it's very easy to get those dots, and I really don't like them. Nobody does. Poor dot. Oh well, I think this is not working for me, and I will change back to the spear shader. I'm so sorry. I think I really may have sharpened that too much, and it doesn't work. But with this, it's harder to do these curves, so I'm using temperature 4 now. I'm using the whole tip and slower strokes. So at this point you can start making lines with the direction of the hair, like we did with the other one. They will create texture with slower strokes for them to be darker and stand out in the middle tones. Now keep pulling these hairs until, don't forget, this is the brighter area, so I think this point is this one right here, so the brighter area will be here. So I think we have to increase a little bit the midtones. I'm using all of the tip now. And now with slower strokes we can add more detail. Like with the other one, don't go the whole way between the middle tones. Well, like I always tell you, I'm sorry about my voice, I'm a little sick, so it may sound strange, because I taped this in several days, and today I think I am a little bit sick, so I'm sorry about that. What I was saying is that, like I always tell you, take some time between the work. So this was what I had yesterday, and I was feeling that it was not 100% right. So I wanted to be the more accurate as possible, so I tried to blend the original picture with what I already had, and I feel like I have to make some changes because this is where the highlight is, as you can see, and what I have is a little bit out already. Also, this is the wood grain, which is not helping much. What I will try to do is I will use first this eraser. I searched for it and I think it is not made anymore. This was made to erase ink. A friend of mine gave it to me. I think they don't make these anymore, and this is also a little bit abrasive, so I think it will be enough to do this. I think I will remove just a little bit Let's see. With this eraser you are able to take some of the lighter burnings. You also have sand erasers that will do the same or even better. This is the one I have and that it works. I think it's this line from the wood grain that's bothering me. I think we can work from here. I have the spear shader and the Optima at temperature 4, and we'll go from here. I'm using the whole tip to make all this area darker. So that we will have only the bright area to adjust. Now I'm using just the tip to build some texture again. So let's say that you are looking at this and you say, well, I have finished this. You could use some white pencil. I'm using my Carandash to highlight some areas to make them completely white. Because you will never get white, it's the wood color that you will have, and if you add some white pencil you will have complete white. Remember to do this only when you finish your burning. Don't burn over the pencil, please. You could also use a rotary tool to do this, or you could use it right in the beginning to set your highlights, and then you could burn over them without being able to keep them. Well, I guess this is what I would do. This grain is really bothering me, so I knew it was here, it's here also. This is something you would want to look when you choose your wood. This is very important, and this is not possible to remove or to go over. You can try to blend the result like I did, burning some more, adding white pencil, but you should really take a look when choosing your wood so that it's uniform, it doesn't have this grain. It will be harder to work and the final result will not be as good as you wanted it to be. So I think this is a very big tutorial already. Again, I will maybe make one more when with one of the other sides of the braid. I will probably ask for your opinion to choose which one you would like to see. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope it's helpful, and see you in the next video. Thank you.